more questions?
In my line of work, I kind of have the privilege of working with a whole lot of local small businesses and kind of mid-caps and large businesses. And I've talked to a number of owners, CEOs, presidents who have all expressed that should this bill go through, they'll have no choice but to look elsewhere to conduct their business because they can't work in a place that that has so much legislative risk. They don't want to be told how to do their business, and so they'll go elsewhere. My concern is that if they, lots of them are large, major employers who will take or who will have to lay off large numbers of employees, leaving sort of the employee vacuum in Bellingham County, thus lowering all of our qualities of life. My concern is there a contingency plan for if these employers leave, as many of them are planning to, or are we just intending to use Bellingham as a martyr for this greater good across the country?
Certainly not to be a martyr. Certainly to protect the people of Bellingham. And I don't know any of the people that you work with, and I hesitate to question their bona fides in saying things like that. But when the city of Pittsburgh passed its anti-fracking ordinance, on which ours is largely modeled, the fracking companies swore up and down that they were going to sue the socks off Pittsburgh the day after the ordinance passed. And they didn't.
My clients won't sue, they'll just move.
Well, I wonder if they're actually going to move. Or is it, you know, corporate puffery? I don't know.
Corporations, especially larger corporations who have more to lose, will make business decisions to move to areas where it's less expensive to operate, less risky to operate. I mean, that's common sense. So unless this bill passes,
what I would say is that this ordinance would make this a better place for businesses to operate, especially the construction companies, because it's going to mean that the waterfront can actually be used instead of being cut off by these coal trains.
I actually take the more drastic view of what you're saying. I think some corporations in this county, if this is passed, have everything to lose. And namely, they are the small family corporations that operate around here. I look at the dairy industry and some of the practices that they have. There is a group of people out there. My favorite dairy was just recently shut down by a local group of do-gooders, if you want to use that word, because the water quality in a ditch didn't quite measure up to their standards. And there was such an outcry and legal costs ensuing that it was just easier for that family corporation to shut down. Now, that family lost everything. They didn't have the option of moving. You can't pick up your dairy and move it to another county. And I think that's even the bigger tragedy here. Is here's, you know, a group that is supposed to be promoting local, sustainable, agricultural, eat local, but then we shut down the dairy because they don't meet our standards of environmental quality. That, I think, is the highest level of contradiction. But the winners in this, nobody won. Everybody lost. And in fact, that family lost everything. And I think that's the biggest tragedy here. I mean, we're not talking about just illness or something, you know, that, you know, might happen to somebody else. We're talking real economic ruin.
So what dairy was that?
It was the dairy on the corner of Kickerville and Grandview. It's Pleasant Valley Dairy. Yeah. My wife, who suffers from autoimmune diseases, can't have milk that has hormones or cattle that are produced with hormones or any of that stuff. When we bought our cheese there, no. Now we have to go to Hagen's that trucks it in. You know, what do we do with that? You know, there's sustainability for you, for a trucking company. You know, and it was awful. And I know, I drove by there the day that I saw the white truck with somebody out there dipping in the ditch. And I called them and I said, hey, They're after you. You better get your attorneys. You better lawyer up. They didn't, they're closed.
So who shut them down?
Well, it's a local group, go unnamed. Just look up sustainable and see who comes up.
Why wasn't Daniel?
Oh, it's resources. It's resources.
And
Okay.
Resources does that. I was on the board for 18 years.
Yeah.
They did that because that company didn't have the stormwater permits that they were required to have.
Permits.
The permits, not the harm, right? They don't care about
Not the
harm,
harm.
they care about permits.
The
This is
permits.
exactly what we saw in CN1, a private group.
There
with
it is
telephoto
for you, right
lenses,
there.
Spying on their
I would
neighbors,
suggest
shutting them
people
down over
study this.
technicality. I would say, yeah, look and see if there was any harm, right? These are people who are bullies, and they're bad for your community. And if anything, you should drive them out, right? You know, put them on their moral high horses and send them somewhere else, right? Because they're convinced that the ends justify the means, they know their good intentions, and they will hurt people along the way.
And here's the really sad part is that I know a lot of people in that organization that honestly are out there really trying to do some good. And it's overshadowed by the fact that in a lot of instances though too, the harm is absolutely, it's a catastrophe. It really is a catastrophe.
You gotta go to the